Misha. I'm here to talk to you about insulin resistance. And this morning, we're going to talk about some simple hacks that can help you overcome your insulin resistance and get your blood sugar spikes down. It's a complicated subject. We're going to try and keep it as simple as possible. And if you don't know what insulin resistance is, we'll go over that shortly too. But right now, I want to dive in a little bit. We'll give you some of the information about insulin resistance first. I'm highly distracted by my gray hairs because I quit dyeing my hair. All right. So, insulin resistance really just happens in response to too much blood sugar in the bloodstream because insulin is actually there to deliver the sugar to our cells. But when we have sugar in our bloodstream too often, too much, then that insulin starts to be called on too often, and the cells start to be like, hey, insulin, we're tired of you. We don't want to hear from you anymore. And that's when it becomes insulin resistant. When some of the cells are not taking in the insulin like they should. Let's see it. Can you hear me now? World famous. Can you hear me now? Okay. Zuby, good. You guys, can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So you know what? I do this morning thing. I'm going to talk about it a little bit too. Um, I have this new technology that scans and helps me see everything that's going on and makes recommendations for, what supplements my body needs that day. And I had the headset for that plugged in, so I forgot to turn it off apparently. But thanks for letting me know, you guys. All right, so let's start over a little bit because I don't want anybody to miss this. We're going to talk about some tips and some hacks that you can do with your diet that are going to help you with insulin resistance and more importantly, help you get your A1C and your blood sugars down. So let's start with the insulin resistance piece. And thanks you guys for all the loves and likes. I really appreciate you all. So insulin resistance is just a disease of too much insulin, but let's take it back a few steps. What's insulin there for? It's there to help deliver the energy that we're eating as food to the cells of our body. What cues it? When our blood sugar rises or our glucose rises, that cues the body to tell the pancreas or the brain to tell the pancreas to start producing insulin. That's the hormone that's going to come out and deal with the sugar in the bloodstream. So what's happened to us is our food is imperfect. We all know it's imperfect. We all know that we're not eating the way we should and that we're not getting in the nutrients we should and that the food probably isn't giving us what we should. So should, could. We just need to deal with it so we can feel better. So if we understand that we're getting in too much sugar too often and it's spiking our blood sugars too often and that's spiking our insulin and that's called insulin resistance over the long term. And insulin resistance links to all of this stuff up here. Okay. So if we understand that why we're feeling sick from all of this actually has to do with insulin resistance, we might be able to take control of it. So understand, just hold this in your back pocket. Insulin resistance is just the whole body's hormonal response to too much sugar in the bloodstream at any given point. But what happens is we start to train our blood sugar or our insulin to be high because we're being told to eat every 2 hours and we're eating these foods that are converting into sugars. And most of us don't even realize what's happening to our body. We're trusting the food industry to give us nutritious food when we're being duped. Okay. So we want to get that blood sugar down because for most of us, going out and changing our whole lifestyle and changing our whole diet is not the right approach. Because look at when we do anything, I don't know about you guys, but when I make any change in my life, if it's too big, if it's too radical, if it's unsustainable for me, I'm not going to stick with it. And do you guys feel the same? Type of one in if radical change feels too unsustainable, and even if you have a moment in time that you think it's going to be great, you just give up on it because it's unsustainable, and then you're not really getting anywhere. So if you guys feel like these big radical changes, like some people are talking about, oh, just eat all meat, get rid of everything else. And some people are like, oh, just eat all plant-based, don't eat any protein. Or, oh, just, like whatever rabbit hole they have you jump down. And it feels unsustainable for your lifestyle, the way you were raised, the way you live now. And you just want something realistic. And I almost swore because I was going to put a word in the middle of there because I get so frustrated. We just want something that's realistic and sustainable. Okay, so here come the tips. When we understand that insulin is driving our our insulin resistance is driving us to be sick because it cannot deal with all of these things. I go over those in many other episodes, but what we want to do is get the insulin down. So let's just stop fucking farting around with it, and let's say the biggest thing that you can change to your diet to help you become more insulin sensitive is going to be adding fiber beforehand. There have been some studies done in the 2020s, actually, one of them in 2021, and they're showing how fiber impacts your blood sugar spike. So insulin resistance in the brain is a leading cause to Parkinson's. Absolutely, it is. It's a leading cause to Alzheimer's. There's a huge link to insulin resistance in the brain and ADHD and autism as well. So when we start to put all of that together, this is pretty important stuff, right? We're going to talk about a number of things, and part of it being the protocol that I use, and part of it just some simple tips you can use, right? So fiber first. Now, when I say fiber first, this is why. In these studies, they showed that they took a group of people who were just following the standard care for diabetics, the standard recommendations for diabetics. The other group was just adding fiber into their system. And so they went from about 17 grams of protein or 16 grams of fiber a day to about 37 grams of fiber. The group who took in the fiber had a far more dramatic change in their blood sugars and their A1C. The group who started adding fiber was able to reduce their blood sugar, the long term, the A1C, by about 2 points. The group who was just following the diabetic recommendations reduced them by about 1 point. So look, if you could double the reduction of your A1C and your blood glucose by simply adding in this nutrient and not having to, I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to say that, because I think that a lot of the recommendations for diabetics is old news and it's not helping. And so I would not recommend most of the recommendations that you guys have been being told for diabetics, and doctors are starting to change that themselves as well. So confused why the EU are the only ones recognizing type 3 diabetes. Sam, it's starting to be talked about more and more. You just may not have heard about it. Here in the US, it's pretty prevalent that we talk about type 3 diabetes being Alzheimer's, because actually it goes like this. So it goes high levels of blood sugars for a long time, then high levels of insulin, and that high level of insulin for a long time, hyperinsulinemia, then becomes insulin resistance. As this progresses, as the disorder progresses, it goes from insulin resistance, then to prediabetes, then to full-blown type 2 diabetes. And then if it's still not handled at that point, and as we age, and guess what? Some of this type 3 diabetes, this Alzheimer's, are starting to be shown in younger and younger and younger people. It's no longer something for 50 or 60 years old or older. They found it in 40 and 30-year-olds who are having this type 3 diabetes, where the brain is severely impacted by diabetes. So type 3 Alzheimer's is really this end stage of your diabetes never got taken care of, and now you're getting sicker. Okay. Yeah, they're not. So Sam, when we look at insulin resistance, it's fairly new information scientifically. I mean, yes and no. Like, they knew about insulin resistance probably 30, 40 years ago, but nobody really dove into it. Recently, they're starting to understand that it's an issue, and so they're doing a lot of correlational studies. Does this correlate or link up with this? And what they're finding is that insulin resistance is highly linked in 30% or more of people in almost all of these disorders, some of them 50% or more, some of them it's even higher than that. But there's a big link between insulin resistance and these things. So now what science is actually doing is they're starting to take a look at, okay, so we found a link between MS and insulin resistance. What are the mechanisms that insulin resistance is linked to MS? And is it How much is it linked? So they're starting to do those studies. We're going to be hearing more and more about how insulin resistance is linked to a number of these diseases as time goes on. So we're just scientifically, we're just learning about it. And I say we as in a whole community, not we as in I'm a scientist. Okay. We as in a whole community are learning more about insulin resistance. Because of the efforts of guys like Dr. Ben Bickman, who wrote the book Why We Get Sick, and Jason Fung, and Dr. Lee, and Dr. Pradeep, and a number of other physicians who are working on, physicians and scientists, this whole thing called insulin resistance. So let's get back to the tips, okay? So we know that insulin resistance is a problem, and primarily like 93% of us have some type of metabolic disorder. That means that 93% of us are suffering from something up here that could be addressed by addressing the insulin resistance. That's the biggest takeaway, right? So this isn't just about, I have diabetes or I don't have diabetes. It's about, look at all these symptoms. If you're experiencing these symptoms and you haven't been diagnosed, it's fine. You don't really have to be. I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some hints as to how you can tell this is you. And since it's a dietary disorder, is take your power back. Let's just stop for a second. Take your power back. Not everything has to be given over to somebody else to take care of you. The biggest thing you can do for your health is to start taking your own power back and understanding, if I break my leg, do I want to go to a doctor? Do I maybe want some antibiotics and some painkillers? And do I want them to set that leg and maybe stitch me back up? I've had it happen a couple of times. Yeah, heck yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm thankful for those doctors. Yeah, I want them in that situation. But when I'm dealing with something like excess weight and insulin resistance because of the food I eat, is the doctor counseling me to straighten that out from addressing the root cause? Or are they saying, oh, hey, Pfizer or some of these other companies have said this drug is going to be working for this, and so it's in my formulary, and it's what the insurances are going to pay for, and I don't have time to give you an hour-long lecture on insulin resistance. So here you go. Here's a pill. Take it every day for the rest of your life to try and maintain your blood sugar levels and not get them too high and get sick and die. But most of those medications are worsening the symptoms long term. You never come off of them, and it doesn't really lengthen your lifespan or give you a lot of quality of life back. So what we want to do is take our power back. Know that with this particular thing, and with many others, yes, with many others, we can advocate for ourselves. We can take care of ourselves. We can start doing some diagnosing is not the right word. We can start to be more self-aware and understand, hey, like, you know what? I figured out that I was anemic recently. Do you know how I did? And it's getting better because I've been adding iron pills. I started noticing flat spots on my nails. I started noticing extreme fatigue. I started noticing a number of other symptoms. And I'm like, this is funny. I took care of my insulin resistance. Why am I so fatigued right now? And better yet, why do I have these funny flat spots on my nails? Iron deficiency. So I started putting iron back in. My nails are normalizing. My energy is getting better. But you do not have to wait for a physician to tell you, hey, you might need to take in some more vitamin D, or you might need to take in some more iron, or you might need to take in some more potassium. You just need to educate yourself a little. So here we go. Insulin resistance, and I'm going to start backwards, because the first thing I'm going to talk about is fiber. And you guys, one of the biggest things that's been stripped out of our food is fiber. Fiber is missing even from our raw organic foods. So I have people come at me all the time. Well, yeah, I buy, I do the perimeter shopping. And have anybody else noticed that because we've been talking about doing perimeter shopping, many grocery stores are starting to put the produce more like towards the center, or have some other stuff kind of wrapped around the produce. So you got to go through all the box stuff to get to it. It's no longer a true perimeter. I'm noticing that here in Maryland, and it's crazy to me that seeing what's happening. The fruits and vegetables are getting buried in the middle of the store, so that you're kind of forced to go around through the other stuff to do some shopping. But okay, so fiber's been stripped out. Why is that important? Fiber can reduce a blood sugar spike by 20% or more when just simply added before eating. Fiber, according to some scientific studies, fiber has the ability to stick with you and continue to help you throughout the day. So when I talk about supplementing with fiber, the reason is because just in our normal daily diet, we're not going to get in enough fiber. We're just not. It's almost impossible. Like if I look at how much broccoli I would have to eat in a full day to get in enough fiber, well then what about room for my protein? What about room for my fats? What about room for all of that? And then I'm actually upping my carbohydrate load because I'm taking in more of this carbohydrates that are wrapped in fiber. It's a vicious cycle, but I'm still not getting enough. So I supplement with fiber, supplement with a specific, I have two different types of fiber I use, both from the same company, but one is specifically designed for blood glucose spike. When we eat food, it starts converting that, breaking it down through this long system. Enzymes are produced as you chew. Enzymes are produced as it's going through the system, and then it hits the gut. And the gut is so acidic, right? And it's breaking all that down and it's shooting it out into the small intestine and into the large intestine, primarily the small intestine, starts to get absorbed into the body for the fuel we need. That's how it should be. But we're eating so much sugar that our stomach is now pumping out more sugar into the small intestine, getting absorbed into the bloodstream. But all of that sugar, as it passes out of the gut and into the intestines, starts to cause a disruption in our gut microbiome. All of those little bacteria that build up our microbiome are living in there past in this whole chain of mouth to butt. And when we have too much sugar, it's feeding the type of microbiome that starts to cause us issues when they get out of control. Things like yeast. So now you have itchy skin. Maybe it's a little scaly. Maybe you're getting infections where skin folds. Maybe you're having more yeast infections. Your wounds just get infected easier. All of that's happening because of what's going on in your gut. We got to take care of the gut to make that microbiome healthier so that our body can deal with it. So there's a couple of pieces here. When we do fiber first, it slows down the delivery of all of that carbohydrate into the small intestine. So now instead of having a big, huge blood sugar spike, it's like I call it time releasing the sugar into the bloodstream. So our blood sugar spikes stay lower and slower, and it requires less insulin to come out and do the job. And as we train the body to do that, the insulin levels go, hey, I don't have to be way up here sky high anymore. I can kind of hang out down here and go to sleep every once in a while because this person is not feeding their face every 15 minutes. Snacks, chips, granola bars, candy bars, donuts at the office party, sugary drinks, all of that. Sugary drinks, that soda, that fruit juice, spike your insulin. So fiber added to the foods or before the foods is going to start to make this gel-like matrix in your gut. It's going to start absorbing some of that food you eat and allowing it to slow down in its delivery through the gut because it's a thicker substance. But there's a second action that fiber does that we don't often talk about. We do talk about, and I think I'm going to talk about GLP-1 as in how we can get GLP-1 elicited in the system, what it is, and why it's important tomorrow. But today, understand GLP-1 means glucagon-like peptide 1 agonist. So it's trying to help with our glucagon response. But one of the things that glucagon-like peptide does is it helps the gut start to feel satiated. So it has this little action in the gut, slows down the food from leaving the gut so quickly, and allows your gut to feel a little distended and to hold on to that food so you stay satiated longer. Guess what? Now you're snacking less. Now you're overeating less. Now you're having less of all of those problems. So fiber is doing a lot. But when we ingest fiber and the proper types of fiber, our microbiome start to feed on that. And when the microbiome starts to feed on this fiber, it creates something called short chain fatty acids. Those short chain fatty acids are cueing your body to burn fat for fuel. So they're also doing a number of other processes in the body, but we're going to talk about fat for fuel right now. So if we can get off of the sugar and allow fiber to start kicking in these short chain fatty acids, then we start to look at being able to lose weight and get our blood sugars under control. And I'm going to do this with Brian. Brian, I bless you for doing what you think is right. But I do a lot of study with, I don't dive into the papers myself, but a lot of study with a number of people who do know, who are able to show me the studies that they're talking about and where the information comes from. That's where my information comes from. So I'm going to invite you to take a step back and understand that you're being triggered because maybe you don't understand the whole truth. So whatever there's so much science out there beyond unicity that talks about the importance of this. That's why things like this are being marketed. Why? If there's no science, if I have no clue, why is something like Metamucil and Benefiber or inulin or berberine all being talked about to deal with insulin resistance? Why are so many other people talking about similar things, but they're giving you this big, long protocol of all the stuff you have to do to get in the right kinds of fiber? Do you want a big, long protocol you got to follow and go out and buy hundreds of dollars worth of stuff to stack it all together to make it right? Or do you want to have one simple thing that's already been scientifically designed, by scientists, not by marketers, by scientists who know and who've done the studies to prove that this works? I don't know. I'm going to go with the science way. So you have your way. I'm going to do my way. And I'm going to invite people to choose their own way as well. But I'm going to invite you to understand that you may not know what you're talking about. All right. So back to fiber. Now, in these studies, there were some studies that showed that when somebody took fiber before their breakfast meal, and this wasn't even in tandem with intermittent fasting or any of that stuff. And thank you guys for all the likes and loves. But when they did just adding fiber to the day, we're not talking about fiber and intermittent fasting and fiber and this and fiber and that. No, just fiber added to the person's day, because we're trying to get above 30 grams of fiber. The one study said 37 grams. So that seems to be like a target point for us, right? So if we can increase that fiber to the 37 grams, and in this study, what they said, sorry, I'm trying to get my mind back on track. In this study, what they said was that one serving of fiber, about 5 to 7 grams of fiber before breakfast, the right kinds of fiber, not talking about unicity. These studies were done independent of that. But they said that it would reduce a blood sugar spike by 15 to 17% before a breakfast meal. Well, that's great. The studies on this particular fiber show that it reduces that blood sugar spike by about 20%. So just a little bump in percentage above what those studies were saying by using something that's scientifically designed to do it. Now, the interesting thing that I'm just learning about is that even 5 hours later, when they had their lunch and didn't have fiber before, that blood sugar spike in the group that was having the same meals was, what was it, 60% less than that of the people who hadn't taken in fiber. So here it is. They had fiber at breakfast. It reduced their blood sugar spike at that meal. Fiber, because of all these things I'm talking about, the short chain fatty acids, when the microbiome is eating up the fiber, just all those gut changes and the slowing down of the blood sugar, it reduced that blood sugar spike, because all of these actions are going on, by about 60% at that 4 to 5 hour stage. Then they had another fiber before dinner, and that fiber, building on the fiber from the morning, reduced their blood sugar spike by about 30%. Now, there were multiple studies done that showed similar results. So that's why we're talking about it, because this isn't just one study. This isn't just, oh my God, Brian, Unicity did a study and they're claiming all this stuff. No, there were multiple studies done that had nothing to do with Unicity, everything to do with fiber and insulin resistance. And that's what they found. So is there some proof in that? I would think when multiple studies and not just one say similar things or almost identical things, there's some basis to that. And that's what we're talking about. So fiber first is that this is some of the reasons why it's going to slow down the sugar spike. It's going to help feed your gut microbiome, and it's going to start producing that gut microbiome is going to start producing those short chain fatty acids that allow you to actually get into a fat burning state and allow a number of other processes to happen in your body. Now, protein is second on my list. So, would you be interested to know that protein protein only spikes your there was another piece of information that I'm searching for in my memory banks. It's a computer. Okay. So, protein is going to reduce your blood sugar spike because it just doesn't spike as much as a carbohydrate does. So, it spikes about half as much as a carbohydrate does. And when the protein is being converted into energy, there are some backdoor receptors that don't require the raising of insulin for you to get the energy to your cells. Protein is also a building block. I talk about this a lot. But when they've done studies, multiple studies, where somebody has protein first, eat your protein first. Yeah, if you're having a sandwich and it's got all the lettuce and the tomato and all that on it, you can't do that, right? But if you're sitting down to a dinner or a breakfast, say I made breakfast, and I will in a little bit, and I have eggs and I have maybe some no nitrate bacon on there. Maybe I want to have a pear as well, or any other carbohydrate, croissant or whatever. I'm going to eat my protein first, my eggs and my bacon first, fats as well. And then when I'm done with that, I will have my any type of carb that I add in, which I often don't. What will happen is the sugar spike from the carbs is going to be attenuated because of the protein being ingested first. I don't have the exact mechanisms as to why, but studies are showing that that actually happens. So with fiber, it's reducing the blood sugar spike. When you add protein first, it's reducing your blood sugar spike some more, but it's also giving your body healthy fuel to live on. Now, there's a couple other things. Fats don't spike your insulin. I mean, maybe very, very minimally, marginally. We don't consider it to be spiking of your insulin. So if you start your plate with, I'm going to have my fiber before I start, and I'm going to have my protein, and then I'm going to have some fats. Now we have a body that's starting to actually feel full. We have a body that's turned on this GLP-1. Proteins help turn on GLP-1 as well. So now we have fiber and we have proteins that we're putting in our diet first. That's helping elicit safely GLP-1 in our body. So instead of having an injection that's overwhelming your body, you're able to elicit this response more naturally just by adding fiber and protein before you eat the rest of your foods. Now, if you have that ice cream later, now if you have that cupcake later, now your blood sugar spike is going to be drastically lower, up to 30% lower, by adding fiber in first. So fiber, protein, fats. Now there's a couple of other things we can do. And I do have to go back and look at some of my notes because there were some points that I wanted to make that I just want to make sure they get out there. Yeah, in those same studies with fiber, the fiber group had 89% of them had their A1C level drop below 7. In the just dietary change group, 50% had a reduction in their A1C. And the interesting thing is the people who added fiber in first and not just made dietary changes almost doubled the reduction of their A1C. A1C is a long-term picture of what your blood sugar is doing. When you do a fasting blood sugar, it's like a moment in time of what your blood sugar is doing. The A1C is able to kind of pattern overall what does your blood sugar look like and what is it doing. So the higher the A1C number, the higher overall over about a 3-month period of time, your blood sugars have spiked. So getting the A1C down to a normal level, which is currently below 5.6, is really, really important. Now, that 89% of people who were able to reduce their A1C were also able to keep it under 7. Now, 7 is not great, right? 7 is not great, but it's not horrible compared to a lot of the A1C results I've seen from people in the 11s and the 13s, and that's actually really devastating. Please don't let your A1C get that high. But fiber has been proven through a number of studies, through a number of ways of looking at it, to reduce your A1C. And the company that this fiber comes from has a guarantee, unlike this, that says in 90 days, you will have an A1C reduction if you do the system like it's meant to be done, which is right now we're doing a tea, 2 teas, a tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon. These both actually help elicit GLP-1 as well. So now we have 2 products that are helping your body produce GLP-1, and this system can increase your GLP-1 by up to 70% naturally in your body. That's why I'm such a big advocate of it. Not injecting shots. Now, some people are saying they're getting their shots for less than $50 a month. I've heard people tell me they're paying $300 up to $1,200 a month. And I think I've heard a couple more for those shots that they're spending, that when they come off of them, you still haven't addressed the root cause. And so they're going to rebound. And most people are rebounding. I've had done videos with people that I've met in person who've either had gastric bypass or done the GLP-1s. And they're like, yeah, it was great. I lost a lot of weight, but it all came back. Well, it all came back because you went right back to what you were doing. And if you don't change what you're doing, you're not going to get different results. So you changed what you did with those injections for a little while because you were injecting yourself, right? That forced you to eat less. That forced you to not feel as good about the food you ate. That forced you to have some nausea and vomiting and a number of other symptoms. And it put your pancreas at risk and your thyroid at risk and a number of other things. But you lost some weight. But a couple of years later, not even that for some people, when they go back to their old lifestyle, when they go back to doing what they were doing because nobody counseled them on what they should be doing, they gain the weight back. Now they've got some other health implications, though. Not what I want. I want to just support my body, and that's fiber and protein first and fats. Now, when you do have carbs, try not to have those really refined carbs all the time. We're human. It's the world we live in, but just keep them down. So, I talked about short chain fatty acids, the GLP-1s. Oh, you know what? The one thing that's interesting that I wasn't realizing with GLP-1s, I'm try to be pretty open. If I don't know, I don't know. And when I do know, I'm going to tell you, hey, I discovered something. So I've always known that GLP-1s were a glucagon-like peptide. I always knew that, they were trying to keep the A1C down and that, there all these other actions could happen. But I didn't know that GLP-1s are actually helping tell your muscles, the muscle tissue in your body, to soak up more glucose. So that GLP-1 is actually helping your body utilize some of that glucose. So it can be very beneficial to have that a little bit higher. Yeah, Ro. Oh, my battery's low. I may have to run get a cord. But absolutely, Ro. It's in the PDR. It's proven, and it wouldn't be allowed to be in the PDR if there were not multiple clinical studies that show that this actually does work, and it does exactly what I'm telling you that it does. So fiber first, and then fill up with protein, and then fats. So when you do that, you're going to affect your blood sugar spike dramatically, and you can see a reduction of up to 2 points in your blood sugars or your A1Cs. Now, in 30 days, are you going to see an A1C reduction of 2 points? Not likely. Let's be realistic. It's not likely that that's going to happen in 90 days. That's going to take a little bit longer. For me, my A1C was at 7.4 when I started. And it took about 6 months for me to get down to like 5.6. And then about 9 months, I was at 5.3. At about 3 months, I think I went from 7.4 to like 6.3. So I did see a 1 point reduction in my A1C in that first 90 days. And that's impactful. There's not very many things that can do that for you. So I added in Slappy Toad. I added in a specific type of fiber. We just got done talking a little bit about how fiber changes your gut microbiome and how it's eliciting GLP-1s and all these big words that just mean that it's helping you stay fuller longer, reducing a blood sugar spike, helping you burn fat for fuel, and getting energy to the muscles that are starving for fuel in an insulin-resistant state. What I did was a simple system I'm going to talk about in a second. I do a tea. You'll all see me sipping on a tea this morning. That's what's in here. I do a tea in the morning. Generally, I have it hot. Didn't do that this morning. And then in the afternoon, I'll have another tea. Now, before my biggest meal with carbohydrates, I'll have this 10 minutes before. You guys, I'm 60. So I'm no longer a 30-year-old who's just heading into this insulin resistance mess. So I still am am now and will probably always do at least 2 fiber a day. We have another fiber that's really meant as like a cleanup system. And I take that fiber every morning as well. That fiber does not break my fast. It actually, as I said, fibers will increase your short chain fatty acid production, which increases your ketone production, which is telling your body to burn fat for fuel. So I don't worry about taking that fiber with like 27 different herbal and fiber components in it in the morning, because I know it's actually helping me with my fat burning efforts and can help with autophagy as well. So that's what I did. When I started, it was a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before every meal. We're now finding that many people are just doing OMAD, 1 meal a day. So they didn't need as much of the fiber. We're doing 2 tea and 1 fiber now. Both of these, remember, both of these can help elicit a GLP-1 response naturally in your body. Lots of science around that. So a couple of other things I want to talk about. When we combine fiber and protein together, there seems to be this huge reaction in the body that helps you start to burn fat for fuel and helps to start turn all this around when those two things are combined. So I'm going to do something crazy. It's insane. I was doing this anyway because I just intuitively, as I've learned my body, I've been a little more intuitive, like the iron deficiency and whatnot. And then I got this tested and realized I really am. So what I've been doing when I eat, and I know that I'm not going to get enough protein in my meal, I will explain, Maria, the morning fiber. Let me come back to that. But what I started realizing is, well, I want more protein in. And this meal, I can already tell, a ham sandwich with cheese, that's maybe 20 grams of protein, not near enough protein in the meal for me in the moment. We need about 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. My ideal body weight would be around 150, 160, maybe 174, because I do have a very stout build. So that means somewhere between 150 and 175 grams of protein a day for me. That means I need to get in at least 50 grams per sitting. So here's the tip. What I've been doing is I just take in the morning, sometimes even during my fasting window, and I'm going to talk about why I mix up this little concoction. So I just take water, put it in my shaker bottle. This reminds me of my days in the gym. These were everywhere. And I will take a fiber and put in here. Now, I'm in a fasted state. I will probably be taking more protein in right now than would be advisable, according to Mindy Pelz, for me to have while I'm fasting. This amount of fiber will break my fast this morning. But I'll show you why I'm doing that. So I'm going to put this fiber in, and then I'm going to add in some protein. Now, you can do this. You want to up the results of this more, then you can do this before your meal. So you're going to put the fiber in, and then I'm going to take protein. Yes, we have a protein shake too. So I'm going to use this Unicity Complete. By the way, even all the years of competing and all the different protein shakes that I tried, reading the nutritional labels, all of the components on here, vitamins and minerals, loaded with vitamins and minerals, and all the nutritional information is here. But 2 scoops, each scoop is about 10 grams of protein. My little scanner, my little health scanner that's helping me understand my system, told me I needed 5 of these today. I don't know if I'm going to get 5 in this 1 cup. So I'm just going to do 3 scoops in here. That's about 30 grams of protein. I may come back later and have more. If I wanted to stay in a fasting state, I would keep it under 20 grams of protein. Now, I'm adding these 2 things together because they've been proven to reduce an insulin spike, reduce your blood sugars, help you burn fat for fuel, and help a number of other actions in the body. While that's sitting there gelling up and I'm talking, I'm going to just dump some cinnamon in, and then we're going to talk about why I'm adding cinnamon to this. Whoop, that was a good amount of cinnamon. So cinnamon is amazing because it actually helps block a digestive enzyme called amylase. Amylase breaks down sugars really quickly. Amylase builds up in women over 40. So we tend to carry more amylase just latent in our body. So that means every time we eat carbohydrates, it's converting really quickly. Cinnamon blocks that amylase production, so it blocks that quick breakdown of sugars. So I'm going to just shake this up. So protein, fiber, and a little bit of sugar. And I'm going to have this. Now, I probably will be full after this. Probably still won't eat until later. Kind of wishing I would have only done 2 scoops now so I would stay in a fasted state, but here we go. So now I'm going to drink this down. Now, the studies that I was looking at, listening to this morning, were showing that when you do that, when you have protein before your meal, simple as a protein shake, if you're having a meal that's lower, like if you're going out for a big old steak and some potatoes, you can skip that. But if you're having our standard diet today, you might want to do that before at least a couple of your meals a day. It's going to help keep that blood sugar spike down. It's going to help start producing short chain fatty acids. It's going to deliver a lot of building blocks to your body, and it's going to especially keep that blood sugar spike down. Fiber, protein, and a little bit of cinnamon. So we're slowing down the blood sugar, we're slowing down the insulin, and we're slowing down the blood sugar by blocking some of the amylase with the cinnamon. A little tip, right? I don't know how many of you guys have ever heard anything like that, right? How many of you guys have ever heard that if you did fiber and protein, maybe add a little cinnamon in with it before you eat, you could actually block the breakdown of sugar and prevent it from entering your bloodstream too quickly. Some of the other things that happen when we have fiber and protein before the meal is it allows more absorption of nutrients into our system. Our system is not being just like flooded with stuff. And so it's just passing through really quickly. And the intestinal system is like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought I saw vitamin A fly by. Wait, I needed vitamin E, and it just went out the door there. So it's slowing down how all of that delivers and allows you to absorb more of the nutrients while slowing down the blood sugar spike, while starting to reduce your insulin and reverse your insulin. It tastes really good. It's of course, because of the cinnamon, a little nutty. I don't taste the orange as much, but it's a great way. And I find, Ro, whenever I do that, it's I stay fuller so much longer, not just in the immediate time, but throughout the rest of the day. I have far less cravings for sugar. I have far less breakthrough of fatigue. I have far less of those other issues. And I just stay fuller and more satiated and more energy throughout the day. Now, depending on what your lifestyle looks like and what your activity level is, you might have to do that a couple of meals a day. You guys, I'm not opposed to doing shakes when it's necessary. I'm opposed to doing shakes in lieu of eating real food. Okay. If you're eating real food and you just need that bump up, then utilize something like that. The fiber is going to help the protein metabolize. It's going to help reduce the blood sugars. So there you go. Another food that's going to help with amylase, and I just kind of skimmed over amylase. So when we start to eat, when we start to chew and we're digesting the food, there are some enzymes that are produced. And when we're children, that amylase is really important because it's getting that energy directly to the kids who are like growing and doing all this just activity, and they need all this excess energy. So in a child, amylase is really important because it's getting that sugar delivered to the child really quickly so that they can have all the energy they need. The problem is most of our children are being fed wrong now too, and they're starting to see the same problems. But know that amylase is actually really good for us in the right amounts. But studies have shown that especially women, why this always happens to women, but as women age, so my age, like 60 years old, I have this like buildup of this enzyme that now, if you were to do a scientific study and you sat me next to, I have some cinnamon on my hand now, sat me next to a 30-year-old and we ate the same thing and we did all the same things, my blood sugar spike would likely be higher than the 30-year-olds because I have this buildup of amylase, which is too rapidly breaking down sugar. So when we do the fiber, that slows it down. Things like cinnamon stop that. And the food that can help you with that are those little white navy beans. Those little beans that they make, bean with bacon soup, or I don't know how many of you guys have ever had that, but that type of bean, that navy bean, not all beans, but that navy bean can block amylase as well, slowing down how quickly your blood sugar breaks down. So combine some of those things together, and they say about a quarter of a cup of those beans 4 to 5 times a week, once one meal really works. And you know what? I tried it. I actually love those beans. I just eat them, rinse them straight out of the can, put some salt and pepper on them. Amazing. A couple of other tips, you guys. When I know we all love carbohydrates, like one of the and it's crazy my body isn't craving this stuff as much, but there was a day when like blueberry muffins with big pats of butter on it were like my favorite thing. Um, that carb and fat together is just so delectable, right? But what happens is our mitochondria, the little energy houses in our system, can really only deal with one type of food at a time. And when we have high amounts of fat and high amounts of carbohydrate, it gets kind of confused as to what it's supposed to do. And it will start utilizing the sugar more than the fat. And now it's causing more insulin spikes. So, yes, fat with some carbohydrates, yeah, you can do that. But when we're talking about, like, let's say French toast, pancakes, those muffins, and you're putting butter all over them, and then you're putting sugar on top. Now you're actually going to increase your sugar spike and increase how rapidly that breaks down, and that's a disaster, right? So we want to keep fats separated from sugars a little bit. Does it mean you can't have them in the same meal? No, it just means you ingest them at different times. Um, Another food, now this is about the glucagon-like peptide, and I've talked about this food a couple of times because I love it and I haven't had it in the house for a while. And I keep questioning why, but pears. Pears will help you with the GLP-1 action. So now you have this tea, you have this fiber, and we're talking about a couple of little things that you can add to your day that are going to help amplify what this system is already so amazing at doing. So you add the pears in. Now the pears are eliciting a GLP-1 response in your body. They're higher in fiber, lower in sugar. So not only do some of the chemicals, and they're high in chlorogenic acids. One of the golden things about this, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, is chlorogenic acids. Pears are high in that as well. So now you combine your 2 teas in the day, which are great with giving you this mental energy and clarity, and helping you burn fat for fuel and maintain your blood sugar levels. You add this in. I'm just going to tell you, I love the company and I understand what most people are doing, but I will always do at least 2 of these fiber a day. I don't think I have the live fiber here with me. Maybe I can pull it up on the computer and we can take a look at the live fiber, the one that I do in the morning. But all of this fiber, you guys, I've noticed a change in my body. My weight's fluctuating right now because I'm dealing with some other health issues and some inflammation and stuff that I'm really trying to dial in on. But adding that fiber in has really helped calm down the gastrointestinal disorders that I've been experiencing and some of the inflammation and other disorders that I've been experiencing. That experiment with myself, or that commitment to myself to get in about 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day, has started to change everything. My skin is starting to feel better again. My energy is starting to feel better. Inflammation is going back down. A number of things have changed just by getting in that 37. Remember, you guys, the study that they did was on 37 grams of fiber a day. Now, another study shows that most of us, why they went from 16 grams to 37, a study shows that most of us are only getting in 10 to 16 grams of fiber a day currently. So the 16 grams was like, okay, this is what the average person is getting in. So we're going to make sure these guys are all getting in 16 grams, but these guys we're going to up it to 37 grams. And now we're going to see what the difference is. And so that difference was huge for the blood sugar spikes just by adding fiber. This is why the system works and works so well. And you guys, it's in my profile. Just tap on the link. That the system actually does work really well. When people get impatient, like I've had people say, well, it's been 90 days and I'm not 100% better. Really? How are you going to get 100% better from a lifelong of issues in 90 days by just starting to make change? Your body takes longer than that to change. Most medications are not going to change any of that within that 90 days drastically either. So each packet of fiber, Sheila, let's talk about that because that's a really great question and I appreciate it so much. This packet has about 5 grams of fiber. So here's the other interesting part. When they talk about fiber, it's not just the excess fiber. Even in these studies, they were talking about very specific types of fiber and multiple types of fiber. It wasn't like the study was done by just adding benefiber in or psyllium husk in up to 37 grams of psyllium husk a day. It was a specialized, okay, we need this fiber, we need that fiber, because every fiber from every food is a little bit different. It does a different thing in the body. So it takes a combination of fibers to get this done. So yeah, try and get as much as you can in with your raw organic foods or your whole foods. But know that even if you're doing that, it's almost impossible to get in the amount of fiber and the types of fiber we need to deal with today's diet. So more than the fact that it's 5 grams of fiber, it's the fact that it's 7 different specific types of fiber that have been scientifically studied and combined to give us this blood sugar reduction of 20% with one packet. Scientific studies show that with white bread, one of the highest glycemic foods, this reduced a blood sugar spike by 20%. That's huge. Even in all these studies, I would be challenged to find one that says that just a normal fiber gave that reduction of 20%. In fact, those studies were saying, remember, 15 to 17% with one meal, and then higher as you go through the day. So the same thing is happening here. It's not just the grams of fiber, it's the type of fiber and the specific combination. This fiber, when we look at fiber, there's 2 different types of fiber. There's many different types of fiber, but when we look at soluble or insoluble, those are the 2 mega types of fiber. Insoluble just means exactly what it says. It doesn't soak up water. It goes into your food or it's not goes into your food. It's in your food. It goes into your gut. It just doesn't break down. So it's a carbohydrate, but it's a carbohydrate that's non-digestible. So you guys, this gets confusing when you look at packages because if you see something that has 35 grams of carbohydrate, but it has a high amount of fiber, that means most of those carbohydrates are really not going to be digested and it's going through you as fiber. But when you look at a food that says I got to get to this question. When you look at I just lost myself. Oh, I lost it because I read a question. I can't even remember what it was about to come out of my mouth. Sheila, I will talk to you about that. Why did they move the system to only one a day? So there's a lot of reasons why. One of the things is most people, and you guys on this channel and for me, for my folk, I would encourage you to not do one meal a day. It's just almost impossible to get in the nutrients you need in one meal a day. Now, some senior people who aren't moving as much and whatnot, that may be true that OMAD is okay for them. But for the average population who's up and about and doing things, there's just not to mention the macronutrients, the amount of fiber and protein or carbohydrates, protein and fats you need. It's really hard to pack all that in one meal. So I would still do 2 meals. Intermittent fasting is not about calorie restriction. Intermittent fasting is not about calorie restriction. Okay. Intermittent fasting is about hormone regulation. So when we get hormone, the insulin down, then the other hormone, glucagon, can come out and we start to have a number of things happening, like human growth hormone increases, which just gives you healthier bones and muscles and helps little children grow. But then you also have this increase in ketones, which is little messengers that are telling your body to use fat for fuel in this state when insulin is not present. When insulin is out, you cannot burn fat for fuel. So if you're carrying excess weight and you have any idea that you're going to get weight off, you have to get the insulin down. Now, it happens with calorie restriction because what they're actually doing is getting the insulin down. But what you're also doing is slowing down your metabolism. Now your metabolism is not ready to cope with the higher amount of food. So intermittent fasting should be looked at as a way to control hormones and not to reduce calories. For many people who do intermittent fasting and do the 16-8, so 2 meals a day, they're able to get in the nutrients they need. They're able to have a satisfying life and not feel like they're on some restrictive punish me type of thing. But all that to be said, a number of people still are buying into or have been trained into believing that it's all about calorie restriction. So they're like, look, if 16-8 is good, 1 meal a day would be better, right? We talk a lot about, or I talk a lot about the differences that are happening in the step up of autophagy between 16 and 24 hours, but especially between 24 and 36 hours. So long answer, Sheila, and I'm trying to get there. A lot of people started going to 1 meal a day because that's just what they felt was the thing. And no amount of retraining and reeducation is going to get to everyone. So they started to dive in. We had a number of people who are like, I always have leftover balance, but I need more tea. Because a number of people like me have realized they want to drink more than 1 tea a day because it's giving them so much energy. But the tea is also helping with metabolism. The tea is helping with heart rate. The tea is helping with this glucagon like peptide 1 so that you're not hungry as often. So a lot of people were diving into that. And so we took a number of months to kind of look at it and scientifically look at it and not just be like, oh, we're going to jump down this rabbit hole. But there's a lot of science. We're going to go over the tea a little bit tomorrow so that I can explain why the tea is working so well. But so now, because of that, because more people were calling in and saying, I need more tea and I'm only using one balance, that's why the change. Now, we don't have any long-term studies on that, but what they're showing is some of the stuff I talked about with fiber, where when you get fiber in, it sticks with you for a while. That's part of what's happening here. But what's more important for people who are insulin resistant is keeping that hunger down, keeping those sugar cravings at bay, keeping the energy levels up. So that's what this is doing. But this also has antioxidant, anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties. So people are noticing when they're drinking 2 of these a day, not only do they feel better, happier, more motivated, they're less likely to overeat and they're less likely to make bad food choices. And this also does have an effect on your gut microbiome in a positive way. So it was a natural switch because so many people wanted it this way. Now, if you've already been doing the system and you're doing the 1 tea a day and the 2 balance a day, I want to tell you this. If you place your order on subscription before the 22nd of May, you can continue to get your system that way. After the 22nd of May, then it's going to look a little different. But if you're one of the old schoolers like me and you just want the system that you love, the way that it was done, then just make sure it's on subscription before the 22nd and you'll continue to get that. Now, what I want to say, caveat here, you can change that subscription at any time. So the biggest part is that they're planning to send you 2 balance and 1 Unimate a month. So say this month I got lemon, ginger, and balance, which I have all the flavors of Unimate. Of course I do. But say next month, I'm like, you know what? I really want the apple spice this month. I can go in, change my order flavor to the apple spice and still get that same order. I can be like, you know what? Just things have happened. Life has happened and I just need to skip a month. I can go in and skip a month. So that subscription doesn't mean like you're stuck with that the rest of your life. It just means that you're going to get that 2 60 balance and 30 Unimate. I hope that explains it. If you don't do that, then you're going to be getting the 2 Unimate and 30 balance. Now, they have packs of 30 balance. If you're like me and you like the extra fiber, you can just get an extra pack of balance. Now, Maria, that fiber that I was talking about, let me look it up. It's called Live Fiber because I don't want to get it wrong and tell you the wrong things that are in there. So let me get that. That's not part of the system, you guys. I started doing that just because I wanted to get my fiber intake up. and affect my gut microbiome. So while the life fiber is pulling up for Maria's question, I want to talk about the other weird thing that I'm doing, or the crazy thing that I'm doing, or the new thing that I'm doing, because I'm always doing something, right? I'm always, like, I guess they call it biohacking, but I'm biohacking because I was so freaking sick and I thought I was going to die before I was 70, and I don't want to be there anymore. So yeah, am I doing a lot to help my health? Yes, I am. I wish, for those of you who are like, oh my God, this is too much, I wish somebody would have told me the insulin resistance part, the fiber part, all of that before I got sick, because it would have saved me from losing my gallbladder. It probably would have meant I wouldn't have had 3 joint replacements. It would have meant I wouldn't have damage to my heart. It would have meant a lot of things. Okay. So why I talk about this is because those of you who are younger, those of you who haven't hit the stage that I was at, I want you to be able to change it before you destroy your health. Okay. You're destroying your health unknowingly because nobody's talking about it and nobody's helping you. So I want to give you some answers. You do the system, amazing. I would love for you to do the system. It's by hands down, by far, the one thing that did it all for me when nothing else was working. And trust me, I have a Ninja blender. I had like shakes every morning, these green, cruddy looking shakes. I had blueberries and kale and ginger and spirulina and lemons and all this stuff in it every freaking morning. Now, look, that's fine. That was great, probably helping my health a lot. Didn't change my numbers a lot. Wasn't sustainable. I couldn't take it on the road with me. I couldn't take it in an airport with me. This, if I need energy and I'm traveling, I'm in an airport, guess what? Bottle of water, packet of tea, I'm good. Gonna eat something, bottle of water, packet of fiber, I'm good. Way different than carrying around all of the other stuff. Our lifestyle, let's be honest, our lifestyle is not the same log cabin on the down home, growing your own food and getting all the organic stuff that it used to be. It just, how many of you guys, like, there's kids out there who don't even know that milk comes from a cow. And you expect, not you, but some people expect everyone to do this puritanistic food that we just don't have availability to for most of us. So I'm talking about something that's sustainable. So we talked about, oh, omega 3s is one of the last things. If you are wanting to help your weight and insulin resistance, omega 3s are actually really important. So yes, I have omega 3s from the same company because for my weight, for my heart, for all of it, I take omega 3s. Now, they've shown that keeping your omega 3s up and your omega 6s, so seed oils and stuff, down, are actually really helpful in keeping insulin resistance at bay and keeping your weight at bay. So fiber, protein, fats. Fats being, you could add in some omega 3s. That's going to help with your insulin resistance drastically. That's a few tips, you guys. Yes, the system is in there, but there's a few other things you can do. I hope the cinnamon piece was helpful for anybody. You can add a dash of cinnamon to just about anything before you eat, and it will help with that amylase, stop that amylase and the breakdown of sugars too quickly. But it's not going to do the whole job. So that's why it's a piece of my toolkit. I don't use it every day, but I do like to use it, like I just did this morning with that protein shake. And by the way, it was pretty yummy. So I'm just checking to see. I know there was something else. Yeah. Oh, so when we were talking about, and this was a note I just found in all my notes that I wrote on the stuff that I was looking at. So when we talk about the fats and carbs together, carbs are actually increasing something called lipoprotein lipase. And what that does, big word, for just something that simply pushes you to store more fat, um, even from your fats. So part of the reason this is damaging to have high amounts of fats with carbohydrates, the fats in themselves are not really damaging to your body. The saturated fats, the monounsaturated fats, are actually healthy for you. But when you add those fats to carbohydrates, now it changes it. So the carbohydrate increases this lipoprotein lipase, which is telling you to store fat. Well, that's fine. That's what carbs do. Not that it's fine, but we know that excess carbs get stored as fat. Now you add in huge amounts of butter or other fats to that. And what happens is the body starts to store the dietary fats as fat as well. Crazy. So the more we can unpair those fats from carbohydrates, the less likely we are to store the fats as fat. Fats often are not stored as fat. It's when we combine them with carbohydrates that it causes that problem. It's the carbohydrates that are primarily through this lipoprotein lipase that are causing you to store fat and through insulin resistance. So just try to unpair the fats from the carbohydrates as much as possible. If you do it once in a while, you're human, right? We all are. But just try not to do it all the time, because then you know that just every time you take a bite, something that's yummy, delicious, lots of carbs and lots of fat, you're going to store more fat than you would with just the carbohydrate or the fat alone. Okay. And we talked about amylase. And we talked about cinnamon. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about this morning. But please understand, the reason the system works so darn well is because of some of these actions that I talked about this morning. The reduction of blood sugar, the increase of short chain fatty acids. So the lessened blood sugar spike and the ability to utilize energy better happens when we have this fiber in our system. Fiber is key. So I'm still looking up the fiber for Maria, right? Good morning, Maria. And then my phone is about to die and it's time for me to head out anyway. So we're going to look up the life fiber. I want to tell you, there's like 27 different components in that fiber. A little bit different than this fiber. This was developed specifically to help with blood sugar spikes. The life fiber will marginally help with blood sugar spikes, not as well as this one, but the life fiber also helps get the toxins out of my system. So I do one life fiber, 5 to 7 grams of fiber in the morning. I do 2 of these in a day. Now we're just through the supplementation. I'm at 15 to 20 grams of fiber. And then we add in my real food and we're at that 37 grams where things start to really cook, right? We start to feel better. So just having 16 grams of fiber in is not enough. We really need to get that amount of fiber in so that our gut can thrive. By the way, the fibers in this, they're called prebiotics. Actually, fibers are just prebiotics, right? So what that means is it's feeding that specific type of bacteria that's giving you these good actions in your body, and it's bringing balance back to the gut. So all of those microbiome are necessary, even the ones we consider negative. But it's just so easy to get those ones like the yeasty negative bacteria out of order by sugar, because they feed on sugar. The healthy microbiome feed on fiber. So now not only are we slowing down blood sugar spikes and keeping you fuller longer and eliciting a GLP-1 response, we're having this other action with fiber as well. And that's why I'm such a proponent of fiber every day. Because you can get it in my profile link, and I would just encourage you to try it. But try it for 90 days. If you try it for 90 days and you don't feel better and you don't notice that things are changing for you, then you get your money back. It has a 90-day money back guarantee. So I'm getting to the life fiber right now. The life fiber is generally packaged in something called Cleanse. And by the way, I'm going to start a cleanse maybe. It already is May 1st. You want to cleanse with me? Do you want to set a date of June 1st and do a good cleanse? And we can talk about cleanse later too, but I think that helps with insulin resistance and getting toxins and inflammation out of your system. So the live fiber does have some psyllium husk in it, but it has like guar gum, it has licorice root, it has alfalfa, it has black walnuts, it has buchu leaf and burdock and aloe and cayenne and chickweed and cinnamon and clove seeds and corn silk and dandelion and echinacea and fenugreek. It has even more than that. That life fiber is helping me with blood sugar spikes, but it's also helping me with amylase inhibition, and it's just helping get my gut cleaned out, including all the toxins. Is yerba mate a necessity? So I guess it would depend on what lens you're looking at a necessity from. When we look at our system today and all the foods that we eat and all the disruption, and I don't have time to go over it this morning, that happens in the brain from insulin resistance, and people are suffering and they're looking for ways to find energy. And so they're turning to things like Red Bull and Bang Energy and lots of coffee and stuff, and they're caffeinating their way back to energy. But that caffeinating their way back to energy is also causing some heart issues and some cognitive issues and some anxiety issues and some sleeplessness and whatnot. Yerba mate gives you that energy without all those negative side effects, because yerba mate has these three components called adaptogens in it: chlorogenic acids, theobromine, and mate saponins. They help mediate the actions of the caffeine, delivering energy to your system, but also giving you antioxidant activity, anti-cancer activity, the antioxidant is anti-inflammation, right? But it also is neuroprotective in the brain. Now, yerba mate is high in chlorogenic acids. Chlorogenic acids are one of the components that can cross the blood-brain barrier and get nutrients and energy to the brain. They're much higher in the yerba mate than they are in coffee, without all the jitters and the negative side effects from the caffeine from coffee. So it depends on what you mean. Is it a necessity? If you're trying to do the system and get your health under control your hunger, help with nerve expression throughout the body, help with becoming more resilient and resistant to things like cancers and inflammation, yeah, it's a necessity. Is it a necessity that it's so much so that on days when I forget, I have, listen, Linda, listen, Linda, I have ADHD. I will set my garbage can out and forget to pick it up the next day if I don't walk out the door. I'm autistic. I like to be home, so I don't walk out that door often. I have to set alarms. Yerba mate helps me be able to focus and catch the little things that my ADHD hides away from me. Okay. So yerba mate for me is absolutely a necessity. And I can tell on the days when I forget to drink it, because I'll be like, man, I feel sluggish. Something is wrong. I can't seem to think clearly. And then I'll be like, I didn't drink my yerba mate. Okay. So now can I talk about a little bit before I hop off why this form of yerba mate? Will you guys allow me to talk about that real quick? This form of yerba mate I love and I use because, hey Melba, because it goes through a 5-step process. So hang out with me for just a second longer. So this is yerba mate tea. But remember those chlorogenic acids I talked about? Because of the processes this goes through, and I'll explain that in a second, it's 375 times higher than in any standard bagged yerba mate tea in this one little packet. So when I look at yerba mate tea and all the great benefits it has, and if you go to my tab on TikTok called The Tea, there's even some videos from, I will have one in there from Ben Bikman if I don't have it in there already, one from Dr. Hyman, who talks about the GLP-1 actions and the cognitive actions of yerba mate. So what Huberman was talking about was a standard yerba mate, and he said it would only minimally change these things. So if you multiply that by 375, all the benefits that Dr. Huberman was talking about are amplified, right? But the 5-step process with RT goes like this. First of all, it's handpicked. It's never machine harvested. So it's not like some machine that's just going in and raking in all these leaves, and now you're getting dead leaves that are not efficacious. You're not getting green leaves that aren't giving you the nutrients. You're getting leaves that are picked at the right time of ripeness, and they're handpicked, and so it's ethically and sustainably harvested because these farmers own their own farms in Argentina. That's step one. We care about that. Then we take it to a fire roasting process that just allows us to get these components like theobromine, mate saponins, and chlorogenic acids, along with this vitamin profile of A, B, C, D, E, K, and along with minerals in there. It allows us to extract that from the bulk of the plant. So now it's an extracted, harvested ethically, and roasted for efficacy plant, but we concentrate it. That's when we extract it, then we concentrate it to get to that 375 times component that's in here. But the last step that's so different with this is that we take it to a lab in Switzerland and it goes through a process called HyperPure. So now once we've done all of our stuff, it goes through this process. HyperPure is a patented process that allows them to go in and start to strip back things like any incidental pesticides or some of the PAHs from that fire roasting. So now you have a product that's extremely clean, extremely powerful, and 375 times more potent than any yerba mate tea on the market. That's why I love this. And you'll feel it with your first glass of tea. And it has a 90-day money-back guarantee. So what the heck? Why aren't you trying it? Why aren't you trying it? Like, it just amazes me. I don't have the personality that some people who are on here like, you got to do this. But really in my heart, I'm like, you got to do this. You got to do this. It's amazing what it can do for your health. And then guess what? I get to be there with you the whole way and help you through all this and continue to bring you information. And when you have questions of me, I'm going to go research it. If I don't have the answer, I'm going to get you an answer. Okay. So if you're serious about taking your health back and getting your life back, why not start taking a look at insulin resistance? And the most simple way that I found, the most sustainable way, and the way that is actually giving me health back instead of stripping my health away, is this system. I keep saying I'm going to get off. I have to mention this. Okay, the system is amazing. I will never stop doing the system. But because I was insulin resistant for over 40 years, I damaged my body. Because the food industry and the doctors and the medicines damaged my body to high heavens. Like, there's so much been, and then I've had injuries. So I've had multiple surgeries and I've had 20 broken bones. And you guys, my life has been this crazy roller coaster ride that I wouldn't trade in for the world. So I would love to have you as on my team as a client and just help you out. So just let me know. Just check the link up here, or I'll just send you a message, and let's stay in communication until the 15th. I get it. I get paid on the 15th. And so some of my stuff is like, small things in the middle of the month, or during the month, but the biggest purchases I want to make are around the 15th. So I get it. All right. And if you order before the 15th and you're on the fence about the Unimate, by the way, you guys, my blood pressure was 180 over 110 at some point during every day. When I started, the best we could get it at the doctor's office was 150 over 110, 180 over 150. And now it's regularly in the 120 over 110 range, and I'm off of all medications. So if you're worried because you have blood pressure problems about doing the tea, because it seems like I talk a lot about it being a stimulant, it actually is helping normalize. So low blood pressure, normalize. High blood pressure, normalize your blood pressure. And so this is my blood pressure right now, 117 over 79. No medications for 3 years. So do I still have some excess weight? Yes, I do. Is my blood pressure at a range that's not harming my heart anymore? Heck yeah. Is that a good feeling to have my blood pressure at that as opposed to 180 over 150? Yeah. Okay, so the technology that I have, and I'm doing this for all of my new clients. You guys, if you're new and you do subscription, I'm going to do a scan for you for free if you just send me a message that says scan when I send you out your first texts. The scan is done with similar technology as this. So it's reading vibrations through your tone of voice. And there's a lot of information about it, science behind it. But what it does is I speak for about 10 seconds. It records that. And then it, crazy enough, is able to go through my system. And I'm surprised every day at how right on it is. So it's been telling me like the levels of iron that I need to take. And actually I was worried that I wasn't taking enough iron. It almost doubled the amount of iron I was taking. But as I've loaded with the iron, it's starting to tell me I need less iron. but it shows me all the stuff that I'm missing. Not only does it show me the supplements that I need to take, so I'm not taking too much of some stuff and not enough of other stuff, but it's showing me the areas in my body that are out of balance at that moment in time. So some of the more small things to do with insulin resistance, leptin levels, and some of these other things that go on, it actually can dial in on that. It dialed in on the fact that my left eye doesn't see as good as my right eye because of all the damage. Um, but it's an amazing scan. It doesn't cure you, but it gives you a clue as to what else could be going on with you. Now, I did one for a young lady who's been suffering with PCOS and a number of issues throughout her life. And there was nothing huge on there, but there was one genetic clue that showed up. That's a possibility that if she takes a look at that and what's going on with that, some of the issues that she's had could get better. But beyond that, you also get a sound bite, a sound recording that will help rebalance those energies in your system. So again, it's a snapshot in time, and every day it's going to look a little different. Your scan is going to look completely different from mine because your body's completely different. It's just another tool in my toolkit to help me optimize my health now that I damaged it so bad, right? Too bad I didn't know about it earlier. All right. So the scan is amazing, but it's helping me understand. Like this morning, some of the things, it was prebiotics, a digestive support nutritional that I use. The amylase comes up a lot, that my body's breaking down sugar too much, too quickly. So I need to take an amylase inhibitor. My Unimate and my balance show up on it, that I need those things. But this morning it showed that I needed protein. And that is crazy to me that it can tell that. So it's having me up my protein level. Now, I am somebody who's trying to get in enough protein all the day, all the time. And I'm having problems getting in enough protein. So what does that mean for the rest of you guys who aren't as cognizant of protein and have no idea where it's at? The scan is called AO scan. And I have a friend from childhood who's been trying to talk to me about it for a long time. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested, but I just don't have the brain space right now. And I finally was like, you know what? I need to honor her and at least check this out. And I checked it out and I was mind blown. And then I called her back after my 3-day trial and said, I'm doing it. Let's just sign me up. I want to do this and now I'm addicted. I ran a scan before I got on this morning. I will run a scan at noon today. I will run a scan tonight. So 3 times a day I run scans to see like where's my body at, what's going on. I can tell like my blood pressure was a little high this morning, higher than normal. But it also is showing me that like I needed matcha and Unimate this morning, meaning my energy levels are low. My blood pressure is high, my energy levels are low because I didn't take my ass to bed until about 1 a.m. So I'm tired. The scan picks up on all of those things. So it's called AO scan. If you want to know about that, just ask me, just message me, and I will be more than happy to share it with you, whether you're doing the system or not. For me, I would love to do the scan for as many people as possible who are doing the system, just so we can kind of take a look at overall health and some other things that might help you along your journey. But if you are interested in the scan and not doing the system, that's fine too. I can show you how to be able to do that yourself. And you just uses your phone. The crazy thing for me is I have a friend who, well, you all know her, Steffi, Nurse Steffi. She and I have been friends for years. But she had this big thing. She brought it on a trip with us, this machine that does basically the same thing. And you have to hook up to the machine and you have to do this thing. She has to program these weird strips and she has to do all this stuff. This thing that I can do from my phone gives me the equivalent of that $40,000 system in the palm of my hand for a fraction of the cost. So that's what I'm looking at now to start addressing my nutritional needs and where else can I fit in to optimize my health through this whole thing without taking handfuls of pills every day that I just don't need. That's what it does. Good morning, Jim. How are you doing? I'm just getting ready to hop off. I've been on for an hour and a half now. So we talked about fiber today. Jim can tell you how amazing fiber is. You guys understand that you do get a 90-day money back guarantee. You do get coaching. And Jim, I would love to do the scan for you if you're interested in it, but I'm doing this health scan thing now. It's been around for a long time and I'm just learning more about it, but it's helping me fill in the gaps of what else is going on with me nutritionally and in my body so that I can best take care of my health um, without running to the doctor all the time. So would I rather scan myself 3 times a day or would I rather spend a couple of days a month in the doctor's office? I'd rather scan myself every day. I'd rather scan myself every day. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. Sure. Let's just set up a time and talk later this week and I'll share it with you and I'll show you what it is. You guys, thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow we're going to talk more about the tea, the GLP-1 actions in the tea, and part of the reason why we went to 2 tea a day instead of just 1, and 2 tea and 1 fiber. So I'll cover all the stuff because there's just way too much to talk about in 1 hour every morning. We're going to talk about the tea, GLP-1s, intermittent fasting, and how this chlorogenic acids and a number of the other components in our tea are positively affecting your health and why it's been such a strong piece of the system. So we'll talk about that tomorrow and how it impacts, all of it impacts your insulin resistance. I hope you guys got some good information this morning. Something wrong with your cardigan. Yes, I can call you. And okay, so let's talk about skin and Melba. So the cool thing is the company really does listen to you guys. So right now, currently, and that's probably going to change. Right now you can get the old system, right? A tea and 2 balance. And remember, if you want it that way, if you want the extra fiber and you think you're only going to drink 1 tea a day, you got to get that on subscription before May 22nd. And then you can still have that. If you're good and you're just like, okay, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing and I'm going to do the 2 tea a day and the 1 balance, just place your order. Now, if you're finding like me, and I kind of like that they're doing this, but I'm going to buy extra stuff anyway because I like the fiber. But if you just need extra tea, I do have a link for you where you can go in and you can get like the apple spice and the lemon, or you can get 2 apple spice, or you can get lemon and lemon ginger, whatever combination of lemon, ginger, apple spice, and black that you want in any combination of those 4 teas, 2 of whatever you want, and it gives you a little bit of a discount. And you get that tea. Melba, I can get you that link so you can do that. So you can get the 2 tea and skip the balance this time, and I'll help you through that. And I will call you this afternoon before I head out for the day for sure. We'll get it taken care of. And then we'll talk about skin. Yeah, you guys all have an awesome, awesome day. I appreciate, again, I'm going to say this again. You guys, every day I get off of here, every day I'm so thankful for this work that I do and for the people that I get to make connections with. And you are that reason. So thank you. Thank you for making my life a little brighter and hanging out with me every morning. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye, guys. Bye, Melba and Maria. Maria, I will send you some information on the Life Fiber. Okay. I'll get a link to that so you can take a look at it. I think it's like $27 for a canister. And the canister, if I'm taking 1 a day, lasts me almost 2 months. So it's a great way for me to up the fiber, cost-effective way, and still do that. So, and here's the other caveat, you guys, I'm not live on TikTok anymore, but I'm going to tell you guys, I should have said it over there too. So here's the other thing. Even if okay, you're going to the new system and it's the 2 tea and 1 fiber, but you feel like you want to get more fiber in a day like I do, then just get the Life Fiber. You can just get the Life Fiber too, and add that extra scoop of Life Fiber in the morning, and then have this before your meal with your biggest carbohydrates. And that should work well and still be cost effective for you. So we'll talk to you guys later. Melba, I'll be calling you. And Maria, I'm going to be texting or calling you too. All right. We'll talk to you all later. Have a great day.